Hey guys, it's Christina. This is Vox and Guest. And no, it's not a rerun. You may recognize the dashing young gentleman with me tonight. You may recognize him, but I don't know that you've actually met him yet. This is Aaron from Electric Tardigrade. How you doing, my friend?
Not bad. Not
Not
bad.
bad. Okay, we'll take not bad. Not bad is better than bad. I mean, generally, that's So this is it. We have never done this before. We have never had a guest back, because we're still working through all the guests we haven't had yet. But we have had. You are not the first person to be on the show more than once, because Chris Brandon, of course, who's in every band ever. And he's in your band, you just don't know it yet, has been on, but that was sort of just as a function of the bands being on. But you are our first guest back, Aaron. Yes. And we're here to do it. But listen, before we get into anything else, we have to start strong. You know how I do it, okay?
Question?
Yes. Now, the first time you were here, I asked you whether cereal was soup. And you explained that yes, it is, because milk is a broth, which is a phrase that's haunted me since you said it. But I'm going to assume that your position on that has not changed. But I have another question for you that I feel is at least as important, that I need your clarity on. Okay, are you ready to help me with this one?
Sure.
Okay. How much sawdust could you reasonably add to a Rice Krispie treat before people start to notice?
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would know what unit of measurement. I don't know, because I guess it would depend on how much, like, marshmallow people used, because sometimes, you get the people that don't add too much sweetener and the whole thing's sawdust.
Okay, so it is a subjective answer then? There is no single objective. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, depending on other ingredients.
Okay, so it is the amount of marshmallow.
Yeah, you got that sweetness to hide the, I guess, whatever that tastes like.
Whatever Rice Krispies are. Yeah. Now, see, I have the key to making the perfect Rice Krispie treat. Are you ready? All right. The first thing that you need to do is you need to add a little bit of vanilla extract. Ooh. You wouldn't think so, but you do. And the second thing that you need to do is you need to leave about a half a cup of marshmallows out. And then after you've mixed everything on the stove and you're about to take it out, you put those left out marshmallows in and you lightly mix them, but they just melt. And it makes it way gooier. And I feel like if you used my recipe, you could easily get maybe a half to 3/4 of a cup of sawdust in there before anybody started. And I feel like maybe now, because I've got your metric there, that it has to have a certain amount of sweetness. So there you go. Okay, people, you need to try this at home and then let Aaron and me know constantly in DMs. Every time you try, how much sawdust you used and whether people noticed or not. So, Aaron, I'm sure you're going to be thrilled about having that kind of information in slid into your DMs. Oh, my God. All right. So, look, I mean, just to sort of get it all out of the way at the beginning, because we spent your first interview largely not talking about your music. So,
really there,
No. So, the reason for anyone who does not know that Aaron is back on this show is because, well, do you want to tell everybody, Aaron? Do you want to kind of encapsulate what the fuck has been going on in your life since this show aired back in July?
So I guess I would start it off with like, hi, I'm Aaron and I'm an alcoholic.
Okay. Okay.
There's actually a whole section of that story that Jade and I intentionally left out. We haven't really discussed it much with people not involved, I guess, or at least that are somewhat of a physical proximity.
Only whatever you want to, whatever you want to share.
There was a lot more going on in that time frame.
Okay.
And basically just wore Jade and I down, but like my nerves were already shot, and because of how bad it was, I was basically just slamming beers like consistently throughout the day. And I was nervous about the interview because I knew that I wasn't sure I was able to stop at that point. And I guess I answered that question and no, which by the way, this is coffee.
I did. You know what? Honestly, the fact that it literally didn't even occur to me to wonder what it was is a testament to what you've been doing for the last 3 months. So
I tried.
Actually 4 months really, but yeah, no. Okay, so there was a lot of other stuff going on, which I'm Maybe sort of like, I feel like there was enough going on that we did know about that holy shit, there was more, but okay. Okay.
But I remember, well, I sort of remember. I remember starting the interview, but I had this like, I think it was this like giant mason
jar. Yeah.
And it just, I kept sneaking off camera to top it off.
Yeah.
And basically, I would say before halfway through the interview, well, from my perspective, I woke up at 3 a.m. asleep with Jade beside me. And it took like just a millisecond for everything to hit me.
Yeah.
And then that created quite a bit of turmoil in my world. Enough that I decided maybe I should get sober.
Mm-hmm. And get sober you did. Holy shit. What day are you on right now?
I actually had to check before this. 117.
117 days. And so Aaron and I discussed things because you went to rehab pretty well. You started getting clean pretty quickly after the interview. Yeah. And we spoke at some point after that. I feel like it was, I don't know, a couple weeks in maybe. And you said to me, if I make it to 90 days, I want to come back and have a do-over on this interview. And I was like, and now it's funny because part of me was like, no, I want to make it longer because I want him to have to wait and just keep staying clean. And I was like, no, if he said 90 days, if we're at 90 days, we're at 90 days. And so you blew past that. We couldn't even schedule you in time. So you're way past that. You're almost at 120 now. Aaron, yep. I'm so proud of you. And like, it's so funny. You and I talked briefly on a live a couple months ago, and it was already so different speaking to you than it was that first night. But like, it is like meeting you for the first time in a lot of ways because look, I didn't know you until we started talking that night back in, whatever it was, late June, early July. And so I didn't know at first what was going on with you or that you were not entirely sober. You had mentioned, I can't remember the D, what is it? D?
Oh, DA.
Delta. Yeah, the Delta. That's what it was. You had mentioned that, and I was like, I'm so vanilla when it comes to stuff like that. I was like, okay, I didn't really know what was going on. And it wasn't until we went on, and obviously things got, trickier, and just sort of realizing what was happening that, I really didn't know you. And I just to have watched you over the last, 5 months or so, just completely change your life. And like, you're not even like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. You're also like, and I'm going to quit cigarettes, and I'm going to stop eating meat, and I'm going to like go and get all of this, like, insight into myself and all this. But like, you've had more of a, like, I feel like we've been busy since we saw you. You've been way busier. So, I mean, like, I want to talk as much about all of that as you do, but I also am intensely aware that your sobriety, your, addiction, your history, your everything is not all that you are. And I do want to make sure that we get to talk to people about all of the very much music that you have in existence. And guys, I'm laughing too to myself because I had said to Aaron on Facebook, I think it was like a day or two ago, I was like, listen, dude, I am trying to listen to everything that you've made. And I had been caught up as of July when we did the first interview. And of course, Aaron had to put out like another basically 3 EPs worth of music after, since that point, because like you're so prolific. And I was like, don't keep making music before I see you Friday. And we get on here just before we started taping. And I was like, okay, so I'm caught up. And he's like, well, actually, I released one more song like 20 minutes ago. And I was like, fuck. So I had to sit here and listen to it. And it's great. So we're going to be playing that in a few minutes. But you're here. You're back. You've done it. You're doing it. And I know it's not like a complete fix and everything is not, sunshines and Glade plugins or whatever in your life, but like you are obviously in a very different place than you were when we first spoke. So, I mean, just before we, get to song and everything else, like, how are you doing?
Well, I mean, considering, I guess, much better. The funny thing is after like the withdrawal and everything subsided, I thought, irony of ironies. The reason I was drinking was for my anxiety and panic attacks.
Right.
And it never, even though people had said it, the anxiety calmed down a lot after I stopped. And that was the most helpful part, because a lot of times I didn't try to like move ahead because I was frozen. The only way I could move forward, I thought, is basically if I had some kind of like mental lubricant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as somebody who deals with anxiety and has my entire life, I get that. I really do, because you want to do whatever you can do to just get it to stop for like 5 fucking minutes. So yeah. I have such empathy for, anyone who's, struggling with anxiety and trying to do anything about it, and it's, I mean, that's absolutely a there, but for the grace of God. But I got my own shit, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't judge anybody, but I completely get it. But that's really interesting. So your anxiety was actually getting worse with what you were trying to do to quell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, besides all the other obvious things, I remember Jade was so helpful in this whole shenanigan. She was like, I was sick as hell, and I thought I was dying. I went to a detox center for just a little bit, and it was a shit show. I was like, I'm out, but I came back and stayed clean. But she was helpful. What was it that she see? You know what? This is a good point for me to bring up right now.
Okay.
I was about to praise Jade and my mind wandered off. So that tells me that it's not just when I'm drunk that I forget what I was talking about mid-sentence.
Okay.
But either way,
so you had gotten through detox, you were really rough, you came back and you were feeling really sick, and Jade.
Oh, yeah. So she basically, I mean, when we met, I was drinking profusely already. So actually the day I sobered up was the day she met the sober me too. But we were outside and like the sun was setting, and she like basically in her own little Jade poetic way insinuated that my eyes don't look sunk in anymore and my skin's not as grayish. Like she said that my tattoos looked more defined, and that's just because I wasn't all drab.
Yeah. No, I remember you posting about that, and that was sort of like that was a little light bulb moment for you. I think it was kind of like, oh, yeah. No, Jade Procyon art, I think everybody knows by now, but if you don't, that is the Jade of whom we speak. And Jade was, there by your side along with Herschel for the first interview, and Jade is tremendous. And I like the two of you together. I'm just so happy that you have each other, because it's important to have someone who's not only there and supportive of you, but there and supportive of you and empathic, because they've gone through shit too. And to me, that makes all the difference, because even if someone who can't relate at all, not even to your coping mechanisms, but to the reasons for your coping mechanisms is there for you, there's still a remove, and it's a little at least in my experience. So I the fact that, that was one thing that came through loud and clear the first time that we spoke, is just the way that the two of you are with each other in that relationship. So, I mean, fuck, if you don't know where you stand with somebody, when you go through what you've been through in the last couple months and they're still there at the end of it, you know exactly where you stand with that person.
Oh,
yeah.
I even said to her, I was like, I'm sorry you fell for an addict. Basically. And she's never, but that's the reason why it was easier also. Because basically how I was treated in the past when I was trying to like fight like hell to try to stay sober, get whatever, is it was still met with a lot of abrasiveness.
Yes.
And yes. She wasn't abrasive at all. I mean, I'd lie if like we didn't like snip a little bit, but
because you're literally human beings. Like that's that. Yeah. I mean, Greg and I are about as peas and carrots as it gets in the universe, and we still have our days where we're hungry or tired or hypoglycemic or like anxious or sleep deprived or whatever. Everybody snips, everybody snaps, whatever. It's not whether you have those moments; it's whether you bother to repair them. So. That doesn't mean anything.
We discuss and break things down as they're happening. That's like something I've never dealt with, and I don't think it has either. So we just decided that's how we're going to handle it. Instead of letting it fester, even if we got a bitch about it right then and there.
No, but that's it though. That's how you let it go.
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a mind fuck when you're finally in a healthy relationship, isn't it?
That is.
It's like, wait, we're gonna just figure this out, and then we're not gonna just seethe and quietly resent each other for the next 20 years.
And what's even more mind blowing for me, sort of tying back into the bigger picture, like post sobriety. I think I was still withdrawing. I think I was in day 4. Well, no, it might have been day 3 because I was still I was nearing the end of the withdrawal, but still going through it. I went and I started outpatient therapy and psychiatry and all that. I started actually opening up about some things that I didn't really like to talk about with even my therapist, which was like it was the mom and dad passing and all the trauma with that, but even how the church treated me when I was a pastor. Yeah. And so I went from bipolar to borderline personality disorder caused by trauma. And the reason I say that in juxtaposition with this is because that explains my difficulty with interpersonal relationships.
Absolutely.
Why I'm always tearing them to pieces. Yeah. Which is why I'm trying to be extra careful in my communication now.
No, I mean, that was another huge takeaway for me, and actually for Greg too, because I mean, that interview that we did with you, that was a that's something I will never forget. That was just and not oh my God, he was such a, because I know what you said afterwards when we talked, it was such a mess. And I was it wasn't that. It was, you were in there, you were being you were being honest, even through everything, you were coming out honestly. And we just looked at each other at the end of it and we were like, he has been surrounded by so many shitty fucking people for so long. And it's there's a quote that I've seen, and I'm not sure who said it, but I love it because it's something like, before you diagnose yourself with depression or anxiety, first make sure that you're not surrounded by assholes. Yeah. I think I've seen William S. Burroughs, but I don't know if that's actually who said it or not, but but it's true though. And I mean, I think, and I've said this before, and I may have even said it when we spoke, I love addicts in my life. There are people I know who have been, really close people to me, and not a single one of them chose to be an addict ever. It was always out of massive trauma. And, that's the gateway drug, right? I've said that before. Trauma is the gateway drug. That's the thing. And we don't teach people in society how to process trauma. We don't hold space for it. We don't even honor it. People just like to judge the behaviors, not look at the reasons for them. So I really, I think what you're doing is tremendous. And I know, and I love the fact that you're so open and honest about it on social media, because I know that there are people who are looking at you and going, Okay. Because I've seen those accounts where people are like, yeah, it's day 12. I'm feeling great. I went out to the farmer's market and I bought a scone and then I ran up a mountain and I kissed the sky. And I'm like, no, you want to see like, hi, it's day 7. I'm back in my head and I'm remembering now why the fuck I wanted to get out of here in the first place. And holy shit, guys, like, can you help me get through this day? And like watching people from this community pour into your space like that and just be like, no, dude, we've got you, And I remember looking at you and going, he's never had the experience of being loved and accepted in this. It's only been being judged. And like, and I mean, when you tell me you're in a situation in your life where you've lost both your parents and like everyone around you is like, aren't you over it by now, dude? What the fuck? Like, why are you acting so weird? That told me everything I needed to know. And I knew this community was not going to do that to you. And I'm so glad that you have that.
Yeah.
But us and, the community and even Jade and all that, you're still the one who's doing it. And like, I know how hard it is to sit in your anxiety and your head. And I know how hard that is. So like the fact that you are doing it and you are doing it clean, dude, I have so much fucking respect for you. I really do, because that's not easy, like at all, not even a little bit. So I'm so glad that you're back. I'm sure we're going to keep talking about that, but I do want to make sure, and I want it to be whatever you want it to be, but I have listened to all, whatever it is, almost 70 songs that you have out.
Oops.
I had listened to them. I listened to them again to make sure I was fresh on them, whatever. I just enjoy it anyway. But like, I want to make sure we talk about your music. But before we do any of that, what do you say we treat everybody to the song? What do you think?
Do it.
Do it. Okay, guys, this is fresh out of the oven. I mean, not by the time this airs, but for right now, song's only been out for like 45 minutes. Okay, so why don't you tell everybody briefly about 41 Hot Dog?
Yeah, you can thank Jade for the name, because I was being kind of a curmudgeon about turning 41.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually, I generally stick to like techno themes these days, but I like disco and disco house, new disco, stuff like that. It's always been a love of mine as a bass player as well.
Yeah.
So I got to it. It's actually built around that vocal sample. And I was like, do I chop it up or do I keep it like that? But by the time I got to thinking about chopping it up, it felt so naturally part of the song. I said, but yeah, and of course, Jade did the art.
Yep.
But it's so fresh that actually right behind my phone, so technically behind you, the DAW file hasn't even been X'd out yet. Like it's still up.
You just had to fuck me over and do one more song. Like, and it was so funny because I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I'm listening to it because I can't say that I've listened to everything that you've put out until I hear this song. So, and I just listened to it, guys. It is a fucking bop. Okay. It's great. I love all the disco
the
funk
song
stuff.
You're about to listen to.
There you go. There you go. That's it. Right on the screen. So guys,
still there.
Get your white leather pants on. Get your pick. Get yourself, listen to 41 Hot Dog, Electric Tardigrade. I have to say, I love disco dance Aaron. I do. Like when you first put out Disco Butt with Saxicolous, I was like, okay, like we're now doing this. And like I just, so this song, these songs just make me happy. They really do. They really do.
Thanks.
So you said, you said a couple things I want to come back to. So first of all, like the vocal sample, is that from a song that I should know and don't?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm too cheap to pay the sampling fee. Well, I mean, I guess technically I do. I actually use Loop Cloud to get that stuff, and I'm always recommending it to people that make music. It's there. I think it was them. Their tagline used to be, "It's the Netflix of samples."
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Plugin that you can put into your song file, and then you go into their app, and like if you need something, I mean, they have everything.
Mm-hmm.
You could just type in what you need down to the key, BPM, and just scroll and find, and then you pay for points every month.
Oh, okay.
I utilize them for like if there's something that I just absolutely need but don't have, like I don't sing, so I'm always looking for vocal.
Right. No, I just, and I want to ask you kind of what's going to seem to you to be a very basic question, I think, but I am so used to, sitting down with, my drummer, obviously my Greg, and, like bass and keys and guitars and vocals and that way of making music. And I listen to your stuff. And again, I mean, you probably have close to twice as much music as anyone else that I've interviewed on this show. And it's not, is what?
I said,
no, it's a good thing. But I'm saying like you are so prolific. And the fact that even through everything that you've been going through for years, you've been this prolific, like, it just shows me how music is for you and how you need it and how it helps you too. But like, you have not so many, but you have different sounds, you have different styles, you are in different genres, but you do have this disco, electronic funk kind of thing. And then you have more what I think of as like EDM, like the dance stuff. You have like more like electronica ambient kind of stuff. You've got more melodic, like acid stuff. So you have all these different things. And I would like to ask you, and it may bore people in the audience who already know all about this, but I realized when I was listening to your stuff the other day that I don't really truly understand all of the work that goes into making what you make, because that I can hear all the layers, I can hear all the changes, and like, Aaron will back me up on this. When I was listening to 41 Hot Dog before we went, to taping, we got to a certain part in the song and I said, it's going to change here. Wait, because I know Aaron's music. And sure enough, it did. And it's not because that's formulaic or I'm a genius or anything like that. Certainly not the latter. But like, I'm learning the vicissitudes of, this kind of music. And it's the thing that makes it interesting for me in like almost a trancey kind of way. And I don't mean literally like trance music. I know that's a thing too. But like, so my very long-winded question is, how do you even begin to make a song? Because like the video that we played in your last episode, we saw you there, with the knobs and the dial, and I loved that because it's like you don't even really think about, I don't at least, that you're actively creating all of these sounds and programming all of this stuff. So as best you can, given that I know really almost nothing about it, can you describe how you build music? Because I'm fascinated by that because there's so much going on in it.
After hours and days and weeks and months of trial and error, I figured, well, normally, like now that I know a little bit more about what I'm doing, my first job is to lay down the kick drum because I hate the click track.
Okay.
Okay. It's grating, and I know they do it so I can hear it over the other, but I can't stand it. And since, well, in all honesty, the kick drum is the most predictable part of a dance song, usually or to the floor. So I just go ahead and normally if like I know I'm like wanting to do like a techno, I try to find like a kick that's real growly, sort of subby or whatever, get that way. And then when you mention layers, that's basically, that would summarize it. I generally start with an 8-bar loop, and that's what will become the drop. Because basically at the drop, that's when every instrument, every instance of whatever's happening is going to be the biggest, most intense, basically the theme of the song.
Yeah.
And I'll build off of that until I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
And there's a guy who I watch that does techno music, and he was sort of comparing it to programming synths, and that he mentioned additive or subtractive. And I'm more of the subtractive, strangely enough. What I'll do, for techno at least, I'll stretch out the 8-bar loop into God knows how long.
Okay.
And I'll start with basically nothing. A lot of times I might throw ambient something or other in there.
Right.
And then I start slowly adding things in. It just depends on what's going on in it until it's ready for either the drop. Either it will stop dramatically and then break, or slide into it like the disco song.
Right.
And then after the drop, then cut a bunch of stuff out and let it build up again. And just, it usually doesn't stay exactly how I have it until the bitter end.
Okay.
And toxic trait that Jade doesn't like, since she does my art, is I generally don't have a name until way late.
Okay. But I mean, so do you, because I've heard you say stuff like that before, like, I decided I wanted to do a techno song today. I decided I wanted to do a shred wave song today. I decided I wanted to do an ADM song today. And it's like, so I know you go in with the idea of what genre you want to be making. Okay. But so now, do you have riffs in your head, like sample ideas in your head? Are you just sitting down going like, I'm going to see, how much of it are you figuring out as you go? Do you have anything in your head that you're trying to emulate, or are you just creating on the fly?
Generally, if I have something I'm trying to emulate, it will normally be more of like a vague concept. Like, honestly, that's like this, the story I'm about to tell features this little guy.
Okay.
The Behringer TD3. It's famously the not Aldi brand. Wait, I better not say that. Behringer sues people. No, actually, I really do like the synth, though. It's the acid bass, the sort of squelchy sound.
Yes, okay.
About 2 years ago, I think I briefly referenced it. I was in sort of this like synthwave duo that went south.
Yeah.
And but it started going south because I got this app for my phone called Pure Acid, and it was a 303 emulator.
Right.
Obsessed with it. So like behind the scenes, I was messing with it and watching all these videos and trying to consume all the music that used it. And until I now have like 1 million on my computer, 1 on my phone, and then that guy. But I would watch things of what I was like trying. Like I had this concept in my head, but I couldn't like figure out how to do it.
Okay.
So most of the time I sit down and like stare at a screen and I'm like, how can I do this? And a lot of times the sound dictates it. I don't know how to explain it otherwise, but like, if I have the kick drum going, a lot of times my next step, if I don't build the entire drum, will be the bass. And a lot of times the bass that sticks out at me is the one that I'll stop on. And, you know, a lot of times I'll have to like turn some knobs and do a bunch of shit to it to get it where I want it to, you know, shape the sound in the synthesizer. But I mean, I've sat down to do techno songs and then I came across a very 80s sound and I'm like, fuck it, throw everything out.
Okay. No, I mean, like the way I imagine you creating is almost like when I'm cooking and I'm not exactly sure what I'm making. I have whatever ingredients I have and I'll put them together and it's like, okay, now I need something citrusy to brighten it. And then I'll be like, okay, I have lemon juice. And like, okay, now I need something that's a little bit, whatever. And like, I just keep adding as I go. And then like, I might not have had a strong idea of what I was making to begin with, but then like the thing kind of tells me what it needs as I go. And that's kind of the way that I thought about. Is that kind of accurate or?
Yeah. I mean, okay. Sometimes I'll sit down, because it's funny, the song, shit, see, I have so many, I don't remember the name. And so like, how can I expect other people to remember them? No, there's a song I did a couple weeks ago. Oh, it's the one that Jade also named because the initials spell out BPD.
Okay.
Perfect Day.
Okay.
Talking the new disorder diagnosis. But I was looking. I
didn't catch the BPD. Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Like the Prodigy and then the dark techno, but I kept messing with like these heavy guitar riff samples.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, screw it. And psytrance. I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna throw them all together and see what happens. And ended up liking it, so I just kept working on it.
It's very catchy, and I like the fact that you change it up so much halfway. Like it gets that sort of stuttery thing, and like I that's something that I think must be a bit of an art with the kind of music that you make, or I should say the kinds of music that you make, because there is a point at which you do need it to change, but you can't have it change so much that it's not consistent with itself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like, I mean, I remember there are so many of your songs that take me back to like, not supposed to technically have been in the club yet because I wasn't old enough or whatever, in the 90s, just dancing like at the Limelight or whatever. And you're in that thing. And it's like, it's that moment where it's like, da, 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 and you just know all the shit's about to go down. And like everybody goes, and like, I because I'm like an old crotchety lady now or whatever, I said to Greg the other day, I was like, do people still go in the club and dance to this, whatever? I'm like, because Aaron should go and just like, hand all his stuff to DJs or whatever. Because I could just see people going apeshit over it, but like, I find all of that, you are much more, you're really playing with sound and rhythm and tempo and dynamic, which, is all the fundamental stuff of music in a much more granular and magnified way than, somebody who does alt rock or somebody who does blues or somebody, because it's all sound. And I know it's all sound. I fucking get that. But like, it's to build a song, from the beginning to the end where it's internally consistent, it's cohesive, but it goes somewhere. Because I think we've all heard that dance music where you're like, okay, like,
yeah,
do something else, and I never hear that with you. And like, there are a couple of your songs that like Infrared, for example, which is one of your newest ones. And I love it. I zoned out so hard listening to, like, my ADHD brain just kind of went, like it just calmed me down, and I just like, I actually had to go back and start it again, like a minute in or whatever. Cause I was like, I know I was like in it, but I was so in it that I wasn't like actively paying attention to it the way that I like to. And I listen to things and like, I love that. I love that kind of hypnotic thing that you do sometimes, but not all the time, and it's, I love that I'm never sure. Like, you have, I think, motifs that you come back to. I've noticed every time you work with Winter War, there's sort of an Asian aesthetic to the music that you make, or at least I hear one, right? And then your stuff with Sexiest is obviously more guitar driven. It's a different feel. And I love that you move among those worlds so frequently. But like, do you ever start to make a song like, and at what point, actually, I should ask you, because you do collaborate a fair bit. I mean, you've had Corey Childs, you've had, I'm going to butcher the name, but Raleigh Huami, you've had, Winter War, you have all these people that you work with. And like, at what point are they coming in? At what point, like, do they know? Are you handing them basically a finished track and going, "Hey, this is what I want you to do"? Do they give you, like, how does that work? Since you're kind of iterating as you go, how do you collaborate when you're building like that?
It really depends. I was actually telling Jade that the reason why I'm okay with doing even multiple projects that might be more consistent is because really it's just where it ends in the pipeline.
Okay.
The way I do things, it doesn't really change. And with Noel, a lot of times I'll have it fully built and I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to drop some like actual instruments on this?" And then Matthew, actually, I met Matthew from Facebook groups, and I think I had the song that ended up being called Black Science. I had a lot of it, but I didn't have any. I did a remix for a friend that had lyrics, but as far as anything that was like attached to me, I didn't have anything. And I was like, well, I sure as fuck ain't singing. So I went out to the World Wide Webs and said, "Hey, anyone want to bite?" And he did.
Yeah, okay.
So much fun that we just decided to keep teaming up. He lives West Coast.
Okay.
I've never heard his speaking voice.
Okay.
We communicate solely through the internet. We plan on hanging out some, but we're actually starting another side project that will be like that disco pop vibe for everything.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, no, I like Black Science too. Again, that's another one that has some Asian flair to me, and I don't even really know what I mean by that, but it's
lots of black keys.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Is that really what it is? It's okay. So lots of sharps and flats. Okay, fine. But I almost got like a like Sunglasses at Night. Do you know that song? You must. Yeah, but like again, and I only compare when because that's the way my brain kind of does things. It's part of why I think I can remember everybody's music. It's because like I'll be like, oh, this reminds me a little. It doesn't sound like it. It just reminds me of it. But like I love that I really never know what I'm getting from you. Like I really, really don't. And I mean, one of my favorites of yours, like all-time favorites of yours, 8-Bit Dreams. Okay. I know. But like it's different from everything else. And it's just so, it puts me in a place. Like it's a very specific place. You know, it makes me think of like, you know, just like 80s romantic comedies and like all those like moments when you're a teenager and you're like, oh, you know, are they gonna kiss in the rain and like it? But I love that because it's nostalgic without being dated, which is a very hard thing to pull off. And I know there's a story to that one. And you sort of told it the first time, but I feel like it'll be more more, well, I didn't want to use the word, but yeah, probably like it'll be more it'll be fuller this time than maybe the first time was. So because that's a revenge song for you, isn't it?
Sorta, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. The time frame of it's funny because the reason why it seems so different than my other stuff, I basically non-disclosure agreemented myself that if the guy didn't try to pull on anyone else what he did, that I wouldn't like go dropping names or anything.
Okay.
But suffice it to say that he was like real hell-bent on me making Dreamwave, which I always called Synthwave's more mature, boring cousin. And that's no offense. Like I actually like Dreamwave, but my problem is every time I started writing it back then, because I was not sleeping, I was like up at 3 a.m. working on stuff, I'd fall back asleep. Because I'm sitting there and listening to that 8-bar loop over and over again.
Yeah.
Low and dreamy and reverby. So, but I finally finished it. and it was super long at that point. That's another thing. Sometimes I'm trying to be better about not making like 7-minute long songs.
I did notice that like the new 15 or so that I listened to in the last week were definitely closer to like the 4 or 5 minute mark than the 6, 7, 8, 9 minute mark. I was wondering if that was something you were.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know that it was a problem you had to solve, but I imagine that it's probably easier to get people to listen to more bite-sized stuff. So that makes sense there. Yeah.
And I mean, with that one, actually, it's funny because the guy that sang on it, I found basically the exact same way I found Wizard War, which was just, I have this thing. It's probably from how I was as a musician when I was a kid. Like, I have friends that are like, they will never show anybody a demo. You know, it's just like, this shit's lock and key until it's done. And I'm like, hey guys, I've had this song done for 3 minutes and this might be embarrassing, but check it out. Yeah. And, but it's served me in the sense that like I've had more people than not tell me that they like the fact that I pop up with a first draft and then maybe like a couple weeks later I'm like, done here.
Yeah.
But for that one, I thought it was just so slow that it needed vocals. And so I went, and I usually put a little video up from BandLab.
Yeah.
And I said, would anybody like to write lyrics for this? And this guy, also West Coast, the Polaroid Tide.
Yeah.
Aaron O'Hara, another Aaron. He bit, and I like the stuff. He has like a more pop element.
Yeah.
But we both had sort of like a retro vibe going. So it seemed like a good fit, but he asked me what vibe I was going for, and I hadn't really thought about it. But I just sort of like rolled with maybe something like an elderly couple reliving a bunch of romantic crap. But I mean, I guess I wasn't sold on it. But basically, I sent him the file, and after he messaged me being like, hey, you want to shorten this some? I was like, yeah, give me a little bit. So I cut some parts off of it, and I cut the ambient intro off of it to make it the now. And I forgot all about it. I did question a couple times, like, is that guy ever going to make this? But I was actually on vacation in a previous life with people, and he sent me the first draft. And my first reaction was to be mad because he changed it into a love song about kids at an arcade, and I was like, I don't recall asking for kids at an arcade.
That's not an elderly couple. It's the opposite of an elderly couple. Yeah.
And I was calling it Years Gone By, and he changed it to 8-Bit Dreams, and I was like, oh, are we trying to hit every synthwave trope in this? he knows this story. I've mentioned it a couple times. But it's funny because the reason I became okay with telling him, I think it was like the second listen, it like made me tear up because it was kind of pretty how he did. Very professional. I mean, his recordings, I didn't have to do much to them at all, except put them in and blend them. And he sort of is the one that gave me my collaboration workflow that I use today too. Basically, anytime I did something major to it, I would render the file and send it to him for like his input.
Okay.
And then basically we considered it finished when we were both out of ideas.
Okay.
And then that's the only one that's actually ever been hyped in my discography, in the sense that I put it out, like, I think I loaded it about 3 weeks before it came out, and Aaron made all these little hype videos for it on Instagram and everything. Never done it since, though. I don't know. I guess I don't want to make hype videos. I guess I figure my hype is showing people the demo.
No, but it's funny when you said that about, you felt like you needed vocals for it because it was so slow. I'm trying to lift out the vocals in my head, and I think you're right. It would have been obviously it would have been a different song, but I don't know that it would have landed with me the same way if it didn't have the vocals on it.
It wouldn't have, and I'll prove it to you. I won't prove it to you now.
Okay.
If you remind me, or I will do my best.
I remember.
I have on my band lab, I have a copy of it without the lyrics.
Okay. Okay. I would be curious, because that's such that da, 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 that's so hooky, you know, and I it really, and the way that he did it, and the way that you did it, it's so, he sounds almost like another instrument. I mean, I know the voice is an instrument, but you know what I'm saying. And like, it really, there's just something about that I think, and it may be a generational thing or whatever, but it tickles my brain in a very specific way. So I just, it's just so funny to me to hear you be like, you know, it's slow and it's this and it's that. But like, I get why you got teary, because it is really pretty. It's really, really pretty. And it's so different though from what you usually do.
Yeah, it was kind of, it was supposed to be the direction this was all going. It wasn't even supposed to be for the Electric Tardigrade project. I had the old one, the old project, and this one going. But the funny thing is like I mentioned before, I don't want to go on a trash campaign of the guy, but basically he was more of an advisor. He didn't even know how to play an instrument, and his whole setup was supposed to be, he was the DJ, so he was going to spin them. After I ended up not
it's like
being,
you're the chef and he's like, don't worry, I'll eat the food. It's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. But I remember Aaron, we were talking about the splits, and I mentioned, 33%, and he's like, wait, what's the other 33% for? And I remember I was like, I don't know. And that's when all hell broke loose for the other guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good for you for standing up for yourself, though.
Metadata. So according to the World Wide Web, I did not write these songs. But it's okay. I righted the wrongs. They're back up under different names, but I did put it up. I think it was already up at that point. The new start is all those songs bundled the way they were. Okay. Whenever I was being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, but that whole EP is really, you can tell, like, if even if I had the songs on shuffle, I would be able, I think, to put those together, because they do fit very well together. They do all have that kind of Pretty in Pink vibe, that sort of, and I love that stuff. I love it, and it's annoying that whole project is kind of tainted for you, or at least those songs, because they are really very likable, and they are very dreamy, and I have a certain bent. Everybody does, like things that I really like, and that definitely lights up my brain. But then I'll go and I'll listen to a Disco Butt, or I'll listen to Away and Ahead, and those completely different songs from A New Start, completely different songs from each other, right? And like, that's what I mean about you. It's you. That's the thing that I find the most fascinating with you, and the way that you make music, is that you definitely have a style, but you have a styles, really, and it's, I can tell that it's an Electric Tardigrade song, but you make different things all the time. And I mean, like, even the last 5 songs that you put out, they're you're not, it's not like, okay, now Aaron's in his blue period, and now Aaron's in his, pointillism. There's nothing like that. You seem to bounce around a lot. And I mean, I guess what you're saying is, it's like, whatever inspiration you sit down with, or idea you sit down with, or intention you sit down with, like, you just wake up in the morning and go, today I want to make a disco song. Like, is it really that like ephemeral kind of a process for you? Or
really, I don't know. It's funny, because like, it's almost like my process is like a lack of a process until I get like started.
Okay.
Because I mean, because I have like mood swings, I've actually learned how to ride. I've learned how to ride those. So there'll be periods of time that I can't focus enough to make something new, so then I to the hard drive, and I look for something that's basically written, so I just have to edit which I have like, I guess 4 phases. Second phase being going over the song with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay.
And either adding or removing parts that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of times, funny thing is too, I've actually worked on, let's say I've been working on something that might be a little bit more of like an aggressive techno song. But as I'm scrolling through a sound, I hear something and I'm like, holy shit, that would be really cool. Like in something like this. Next thing I know, save X, pop over to a new window, and then sort of like hammer out a quick idea with that sound, name it something ridiculous, which means I'll end up forgetting what I called it like 2 days later, and then get back to what I was doing. So, I mean, there's lots of little pieces too, of things that I have. And then to muddy it up even more, I have a lot of software on my phone. So if I'm like walking down the street downtown Columbus wearing headphones, you know, I've picked things out while walking down the street too.
Okay.
Actually, not the disco one, but the 2 previous, actually I think 3 previous songs were written predominantly on my phone.
Oh, okay. Is this like when you say like the previous ones, do you mean like the Krusty Gliz ones, or like the previous 2, what, Disco Butt, or
the Atheist title one was Fruity Loops FL Studio Mobile.
Okay.
And then the one right before that was that one, FL Mobile, and I think the one before that was Cubasis 3, which for the DOS snobs that will end up watching, that's the mobile version of Cubase.
Okay. I did want to get to A is for Atheist, because first of all, that title, your titles are hilarious, and I not all of them. Some of them are more, you know, on point, like a dystopia, or, you know, Here by My Side or whatever. But like some of your titles, at least, like really don't feed your cat day old glizzies or whatever, like, you know, I'm like, okay, that's we get Herschel in there or whatever, or, you know, or like the whole glizzy thing, you know, the crusty ones, and you've got
That's Jade's fault.
That's all Jade. Okay, that's it. We can blame or praise Jade for that, depending on what you think of it. But like,
Both.
you know, I mean, like, you know, and then some of them are like, I love Exit Strategy for the Faint of Heart. There's so much built into that as a title, you know, and
I figured you'd catch the meaning.
But that's the other thing that I kind of wanted to get to, and we'll come back to A's for Atheist, but it sort of leads into my question. Is what's interesting to me is that like pretty much everything about you is interesting to me, but specific to the thought that I'm currently having, what's interesting to me is that I noticed a very long time ago that I am not interested generally in photographs that don't have people in them. I'm going somewhere with this, okay? Like, for some reason, like, people will look at landscape portraiture and they're like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like I would hang that in my bathroom or whatever, like fine. But like, I can't connect to it in a particular way. And for a long time, in a similar way, I didn't necessarily think that I could connect emotionally to music that didn't have vocals or lyrics in it. You know, that's kind of like the people in the picture for me.
Yeah.
And so when I started listening to you like months and months and months ago, and I noticed that even your songs that don't have vocals or even vocalizations, because some of them don't have like strict vocals or lyrics, but they do have vocalizations in them, kind of like, you know, 41 Hot Dog, like that there's definitely a story in there. And I'm wondering if are you doing that? Are you making music that you feel like is expressing a particular emotion, state of mind, whatever? Because it doesn't seem like you could accidentally manage to do that with 60 something songs. So, I mean, like, how do you tell stories without words? How do you do that? Like, because I feel it, you know, but I don't understand it really, because it's not usually what I lock in on.
Happy major key, sad or angry minor key. No, I know it goes a little deeper than that.
It must, because that I understand, like that I get, like, okay, I just watched a very cool video on like, how do you turn, I don't remember what the song was, but like, how do you turn, it's like, take me out to the ball game. How do you make it a spooky song? And he's like, okay, here, instead of playing it in C, play it in C, like, and he changed the key and he changed the tempo and he, whatever, like, I get that, but that's not even what I mean. Because that's too simplistic. That would give me a feeling, but it wouldn't tell me a story. So are you telling stories, or am I just finding, am I Rorschaching it?
No. It's funny because I think like, hell, I don't know. It might have been 2 years ago at this point. I said, I think the funnest thing about all of this for me is that I'm essentially writing my own soundtrack to my life.
Okay.
Because really, like, if you read between the lines, not every time, especially if like I have writer's block and I have to go to something that was written like forever,
right, a while ago. Yeah.
But if I keep up, generally, I guess, however I come across to people will probably give you some indicator of the mood of the next one. But sometimes it doesn't even go as deep as that. There's times I've heard sounds, like especially the ones that come out at sort of like 90s techno vibe a lot. Like there's a specific sound in there that I'm like, holy shit, I found the sound. And so then I imagine how that sound would be used. A lot of times I almost feel like I could like hear the line that sound should make. Like it's like this sound was born for this line.
Okay.
But no, a lot of times, like, well, the issue I have, I mean, I'm sure I could sing. I have this, it took me like almost 2 years to put myself on camera. It almost took me a year to even acknowledge that I was the author of the songs. That's why I was taken advantage of. So I'm a little bit slow with my insecurities, but I'm getting over them. So I might, but up until like, even we'll just say now, if I want to express something in a song, I have to do it other ways. And sometimes, if it's not the vibe of the song, I will let the sample that I found dictate sort of the mood of it and like be what I'm trying to like put out there.
Okay.
And sometimes it's just me being stupid. It just depends on the week.
Okay, but I mean, what keeps going through my head as you're describing this is that you're kind of a composer, really. I mean, I know it's not classical music, but in the same, no, but I mean, follow me here for a minute, because I think it is different to build songs out of sounds that aren't as delineated or assigned as they are in a quote regular band. You know what I mean? Like you're not following a verse chorus bridge chorus out kind of format. You're not wedded to that structure, and if anything, you're almost required to subvert it, because the song has to keep changing, and whether that's by adding something or subtracting something, as you said, or altering the beat, or just focusing on one repeated refrain or whatever.
Yeah,
that's part of what like I understand that that feeling in a dance song, which I know is a broad category, and it's probably broken into lots of genres that I'm not savvy about. But like if I was going to a club and I was going to hear something, like, there is a certain build and a certain trajectory that the song needs to go to be successful for the moment that it's serving, right? Like, if you're in the club, you don't want something that's going to like, hype you up really hard, and then at the moment where it's supposed to be this big drop, it all of a sudden just starts going, like it's like you have to, there are rules, I guess, in a way, to the way that the songs have to progress for it to achieve what it's meant to achieve, which is making people move, making people get into a kind of a trance or forget themselves or loosen up or, just kind of transcend all of that, and let go. But I think that because you're not saying like, okay, well, here's where you'd put a guitar solo, or, okay, here's where we're gonna take it down and have that smooth moment in the bridge or whatever. Like, you're not doing that. And that's in a way both, I think, more complicated and more freeing than, like a straightforward 4, 5, 6 piece band might be in making music. But I think that the thing I guess I'm kind of curious about is if you have a song that is more like A is for Atheist, okay? Because that one's interesting to me for a variety of reasons. First of all, with you, I've learned to pay attention to the titles because they're funny and they're weird, but I don't think they're random.
Yeah.
So when I see A is for Atheist and I go, I know your story pretty well at this point, or at least the parts of it that I'm aware of. And like, I'm like, okay, so pay attention because Aaron is saying something with this one, right? And it is very ominous, that refrain, especially, and you've got I don't know if it's actually like a wind sound, but it sounds like wind or something, kind of like that very, it already starts me off and like, okay, I'm feeling some desolation, I'm feeling whatever, but it's also very dancey, but it's also very dark. I'm like, how are all these things going together? So like, what was you said you were walking on the street and you picked up a song, a sound. Where did you start that one? Like, was it that refrain that keeps coming back? Was it something else? Was it just like,
with that one, that one was actually more of a challenge to myself. My issue is a lot of times I do a lot of heavy layering. The dude that runs the indie label I'm on, there's sometimes that I would ask him because of like a work obligation or whatever. I didn't have a lot of time to sit down and mix the track, so I asked if he would be a doll, and mix and master it for me. But some of my tracks, I think I did a remix for my buddy Tim, the TCRXP. I think that remix had like 50 tracks in it. So that's faders to have to balance, not to mention EQ and all that stuff. But with that one, I was realizing that because my first challenge, because I've just been in bands, is how to make something repetitive not seem repetitive.
Yeah.
But usually my answer was like adding certain little melodic structures and things here and there. But the kind of techno I really like is much more stripped down. I don't think I've hit what I want to yet.
Okay. Huh.
But there's not as much going on in that one as there normally is.
Right.
And that style of techno tends to sound ominous anyway. And the name is actually, I know you're going to be surprised by this. Jade helped me name it because I think the reason she does that is because she knows that like I'm on the fence about names until the end. So she tries to win me over so she knows what to make. But for the name, I mentioned it in passing, God, like forever ago, that I found it funny out of all the theology majors, either in grad school or undergrad that I went to school with, all this, for the most part, the students that were straight A students are now atheists.
Wow. Okay.
So, for atheist is an homage to all of us A students who stopped believing.
Okay. No, I mean that's it wasn't the exact detail of what I figured it might be about, but it was more of a broad stroke of like, okay, because I know there's so much for you to unpack still there, because you weren't anywhere fully near unpacking it before, and now you have to unpack all of the things that you have to unpack before you can even get to that baggage, so it's like that's in the way back of the van, but I mean it's interesting to me that you, like, if that had been the title of Disco Butt, I would have been like, what is he doing right now? Like, that doesn't, and it's interesting to me because since sometimes the titles are silly or seemingly random, but I didn't think that they were. You can't really fuck around with them too much. Like you can't put something that's, you couldn't have named A is for Atheist something sillier. You know what I mean? And it's funny, but it's dark, and especially when you explain exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
But like I think it's so smart too, because, like with your hot dog series or your glizzy series or whatever, like you've got this stuff that people are gonna go, wait, what? Like I gotta hear this. What is 41 hot dog? What is he talking about? Or hot dog time machine? So we've got the hot dog that you've got over here that you're building. But like, it's so smart to me, because then you'll have a song like The Uncanny Valley, which that one kind of knocked me back a little bit, because I was hearing, and please don't hate me because I love these bands, I was hearing Journey, I was hearing Pet Shop Boys, I was hearing Come On Eileen, like Dexy's Midnight Runners, I was hearing all this stuff, but like it still manages to be, like when you get back to back to the way it was, there's something so poignant about that in the middle of all of this. And like, that's the stuff that always kind of perks me up with you, and it's not necessarily always lyrical either, but that it would be very easy to think that dance music of any kind, techno, electronic music of any kind, is sort of mindless. I think because it is so immersive and you do kind of zone out with it, and it's like it's something that you could easily like put on the background while you're cleaning your house to like motivate you and get you whatever, or it's something you could sit there and just close your eyes and listen to, and you can use it in a bunch of different ways. But like, and maybe some of it is, I'm sure some of it is, but like your stuff is more mindful than that. And I always find it interesting that where I might know that something's going to happen at a certain part in your song, I never know what it's going to be. But I think that's great though, because you said something really interesting earlier. You said how to make music that is repetitive, not sound repetitive. And that's actually a lot more work than that one sentence would imply, because it would be very easy for the stuff to get like, okay, especially when you were making like your 7, 8, 9, 10-minute long songs. Like that would be very easy to be like, dude, I got it. Like I had it in the first 2 minutes or whatever. But you're always morphing it, and you're not morphing it in predictable ways, which I think is, given how prolific you are, impressive, because it's you knock out songs all the time. Like you're practically making like a song a week. And I mean, at least putting one out, or every couple of weeks. You have a lot of stuff.
The latter. I probably shouldn't say this because I'm giving away a secret. But honestly, I'm just kidding, because I try to help my friends doing this stuff too.
Okay.
I get a lot of flack for not putting out albums. That's why I sort of bundled later on and put them together. But really, I try to do one a week. And if I waited, I mean, it would probably seem normal. Like if I didn't put anything out until I had like 10, 11, 12 songs, like an album or whatever.
It'd take you a couple weeks.
But all the people that I've consumed a lot of different production tips, but I also try to round it off with watching like marketing, how to promote. And then I watch stuff even like with how to do this stuff with mental illness and stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I try to like catch all the angles. But the one thing that I picked up on was because of the algorithms, if you release regularly, you're more likely to gain visibility than somebody that puts out a song or an EP or an album every few seconds. And the reason why I still have a pretty extensive back catalog, because I mean, the first year, over a year probably, of doing this was the pandemic.
Right.
And I wasn't even allowed to go anywhere. So that's, I was doing all that.
Right.
So I've sort of given the appearance that I'm like always writing, but I mean, I do rest, not as much as I should, but
Okay.
a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff, a whole lot of stuff. So
No, but I mean, but that's,
good.
but the thing is, like, first of all, I don't understand why anyone would give you shit for not putting out albums. Like, what does it matter if they're singles or they're not? You know what I mean?
They all have fucking opinions about the way people do everything. And
well, we all know how opinions are, but yeah. So, I mean, but like I also think given the kind of music that you're making.
Exactly. That's usually, thank you. That's usually what I say. I'm like,
yeah,
dance songs generally are spun one at a time by a DJ.
Right. Like, do people go out and buy dance albums? Like, I don't even know if it ever occurred to me that there were dance albums. Like, because you go and you're dancing, so it's
well, like I know Deadmau5 does.
Okay, all right, yes, fair point.
But the other thing is, I mean, I try to be glaringly transparent with myself too.
Yeah.
We decided, as far as merch is concerned, we decided to do like a print on demand because I don't have the money.
Sure.
Not only that, but I have so many friends that have bought merch and even vinyl for their project that it's like rotting away in their closet. And that's nothing on them. From everything that I've researched, and even with an EP, like the first thing that I put out was a 3-song. They say it's more single because of the time length. But for this example, EP starts out strong, pops up, people listen, but it starts to drop out as it goes down.
Oh, that's interesting. And okay.
I'm doing decent for where I'm at. But I tell myself, I don't think I'm dropping a bunch of money on merch, nor am I people are going to sit down and listen to like 72 minutes of me in a row. I have better luck
for me. I'm the one.
I mean, I don't really listen to albums anymore either. So I would be criticizing like me if I do that. Because if you think my styles are all over the place, you should hear my playlists.
Yeah, I know. Spotify's given up on me at this point. They're like, what are you doing? I don't understand. But and I don't, and by the way, I'm going to call that out. I did not say your music's all over the place, but you're saying that. Okay, fine. As long as you're not assigning that to me, because that sounds more, that sounds kind of negative to me, but I know what you mean now. But like, I think that I find your music fascinating, even in a meta kind of way, in the sense of like, what's what genre, how you build songs from genre to genre, what you choose to put vocals on, what you don't. And like, it's kind of tucked away in your discography, but The Sames is great. Like, and it's funny because it's listed as a single. So I was laughing the other day because I was like, your music is like nesting music. It's like those Matryoshka dolls or whatever. Where like I was like, okay, and like I'm going through and I click on The Sames and I'm like, oh, it doesn't say it's an EP, and all of a sudden it opens and there are like 5 songs on it or whatever, and I was like, why didn't they label this as an EP? So like, even when you do put out an EP, but they're not telling people that it is one, right? But like,
yeah,
like I listened to, especially, I mentioned the Uncanny Valley and Screen Memories. There's a song by Erasure from, God, I don't even know, it's probably 30 years ago at this point, called Ship of Fools. I don't know if you know it. If you don't, you might listen to it because I think it's a great song.
I feel like I do.
Yeah, and there's this really beautiful, the chorus is just this really beautiful refrain. And it gives me a particular feeling of just melancholy and loneliness, but that kind of beautiful sadness. Do you know what I mean? Like the one that's like, it's that ache that you don't want to need, but that it's almost so intense and that you almost come to like it. I can't really describe it. But those two songs in particular made me feel that way, Uncanny Valley and Screen Memories. And I'm not really accustomed to reacting that way to dance music, and again, that's not really dance music anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like electronic music. I'm not used to feeling so much from electronic music, and I think that you're really making me re-listen to the genres, because I'm finding depth and complexity in something that I only ever thought was something that I needed to hear when I was out in a club and I just wanted to dance for 4 hours and have a good time, and just zone out or whatever. So and it's hard for me to articulate that without sounding like I'm denigrating electronic music, because I'm not. It's not something that I would have necessarily expected to feel from, as opposed to just move to. And so I think it's really interesting to me to hear how you're making your music, because sometimes you seem to have intention about at least genre, right? Sometimes you will, but a lot of times it sounds like you kind of find sounds in the wild and they just spark up a whole song for you that you had no intention of writing. And I feel like that kind of creating without a net is like, it's ballsy to do that, and it's like, no, but I mean, look, I mean, I've written poetry my entire life, and I've had those days where I'm like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a poem today. And most days I don't, I wanted to, but it didn't come. I couldn't find something. And you can sit down and you can do that. And I mean, there are probably days where they don't come, but given how prolific you are, I don't think there are too many days where the songs don't come.
Embarrass me, do I not? Yeah. She just snapped a photo of me. What a turd.
Oh no. but so no. Yeah.
And well, actually the thing is too, I like the idea of, it's like, you might, like if someone wants to, have a certain mood of something, that I've tried to capture some level of mood. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. But I also have zero qualms if people want to use it for like vapid reasons either. Like
okay.
Just to dance and not worry about anything, which is actually the whole reason I wanted to get it. I mean, besides the fact that like I can be one person and make dance music much easier and less gear to lug around if I ever play out. But I've been, and this is no offense to my buddy Jimmy, especially because technically it hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. The old band I was in, actually the last band I was in, I'm back in, but instead of bass player, I'll be holding up the synths and occasional bass probably.
Okay.
But there's like a message involved. Jesus, buddy.
Herschel needed his screen time.
Yeah. He is it bully time? He's bullying me for food. Now I fed him before this. Damn it, he's not allowed. He's been clawing at the door the whole time. Anyway.
He's a cat. It's literally his job to act like you have not fed him in years. That's the whole reason for his existence. That and knocking things over.
Separation anxiety from the little guy. But I was like, I've been in so many bands. Like I joke about being in a Christian band a whole lot. But in our defense, I thought we were pretty good. But basically, I use the word preachy. That's probably not necessarily what I mean, because that does have negative connotation. But basically, music with a message. I was like, my goal is, because like there was so much tumultuousness and chaos in my life, I was like, I want to make stuff that makes people sort of zone out in a good way for a while too. And I was like, if I do anything that I would call being preachy, it would be like when I clock out from the DAW and I'm on social media trying to raise awareness or something, but try to keep like too much. And honestly, it's sort of the yin and yang. Like I'm okay with naming things serious and sounding serious or putting serious tones. But even some of the songs with a more serious tone, I give really stupid names to sort of balance it out. Like you can take it as a soundtrack to a serious song if you're in a bad mood, or if you just want to listen to that over a serious hot dog song, it's right there for you.
But you know what though? I think that's actually kind of perfect because that is the same dichotomy that I think you are as a person, right? Because I get the sense that, and again, I often think of trauma as like I will use the phrase a lot, like, when I'm anxious about something, my brain is saying, or my brain is making me think, or my brain is telling me to do. And it's almost like I'm anthropomorphizing it in a way where it's like it's almost someone else. Not like I'm hearing voices or I think there's someone else in there, but it's like it's a thing that is a part of me, but it's also apart from me. It's like this thing that's just kind of like, I saw this terrible movie years and years and years ago at like 3 a.m. called Basket Case, about like this guy that has like he's born with a twin, but like the twin is just like a head or something, and he carries it around in a little basket with him, and it tells him to do evil shit. I'm probably getting the plot wrong, but it was not Jane Austen, I'll tell you that. But like, it's kind of like that, where I'm like, my brain is making me think, or my brain won't let me blah, blah, blah. And with you, I get the sense that, absent if someone could somehow lift your trauma out of you, you seem like somebody, you're obviously incredibly bright. You're very funny. You have this silly, like bemused kind of approach to things. You are, you know how to have fun, you know how to be ridiculous. You can be sarcastic, but you also have to carry around all of this really intense shit, like really intense shit. And so it's kind of like, you are trying to be both of those things at the same time. And that can be very difficult. I'm not articulating it the way that I want to, but like, it makes sense to me that you would have music that can be really serious, but also have a really silly title, or, seem on its surface like it's really, like lighthearted, but it means a lot, and you are all those things. You're complex, I think is a, I don't know, understatement maybe, but like, I think that the fact that that's the kind of music that you make, that it can be different things to different people depending on how deep they want to look. That makes a lot of sense to me, because like, we could be having 3 different interviews right now, and I'm aware of that. We could be having let's re-excavate all of the stuff that we talked about, in round 1. But with you in your own skin about it. We could be having let's just purely talk about music in this kind of let's deconstruct it sort of way. There are like all these different things that we could be doing, and I really just wanted this to be whatever you wanted it to be, because you wanted your do-over, and you've certainly more than earned it. Not that you had to, but you know what I mean? But like that's one of the things in your music that I think is so interesting, because there is depth there, and people can choose to see it or not. They could just choose to dance their ass off and have a good time, right? But like, but not to everything, and that's what I find so fascinating about the way that you move among genres and the way that you change what you do, because it's some of the shit that you make is just, it's funny. And it's like, I mean, like one of my favorite titles of yours is like, it's so wrong. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Music to deflower your mom.
I was like, I know he's going to know because I said it was really wrong. But like, I just want to listen to that right for the title. Like, I don't even know what it's going to be. I have no idea. But like, and it's not even what I necessarily would have expected if I would have expected anything from a title like that. But like, I've watched you also really turn into kind of a business dude. Over the last couple of months, your stuff is doing really well, and you're all over my feed on Facebook. Like, Facebook adores you right now. Like, I see you you're one of the very few people that I follow who actually shows up in my feed. Usually it's like, Bob's, whatever, like cooking at a table in a giant pan thing out in the wilderness or something page, and I'm like, who the what, Bob? So I mean, like I see you on there a lot, but you know, you're sitting there, you're talking about BandLab, you're talking about, you know, all the stuff that's going on with Spotify, you're talking about like, you know, your plan and your structure, and like you just said, you know, releasing music on a certain timeline, and you know, and then that's for the algorithm, and like your transparency is refreshing, you know. But I love that you're in control of it now. You know, that you're actively choosing to bare your soul to people, and you're doing that in a very conscious way. But like you're you know, you're kind of bossing out on this business piece too. So I mean, like, is that part of the like the sublimation of things, you know? Are you kind of really focusing on building your brands, so to speak, or whatever? Or is that just kind of a byproduct of the fact that it's already doing well?
Oh, it's all planned.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not the doing well part. I don't think I can, you know, I hope that I could get to a point to where I can look at my stuff and see trends. But right now it's like seat of my pants and cross my fingers. And when the arrow goes up, I'm like, ooh. And when the arrow goes down, I'm like, how'd I fuck up? But like, really though, the multi-genre thing has been a part of the plan, because I think I referenced it talking about the Spotify crisis of 2023. Well, I guess 2024 technically.
Yeah.
I said, you know, like I was telling Jade too, basically while I was hammering it out on my phone, that I feel, and I think it's crap. I do, but like I didn't panic because the stream funding wasn't ever part of my greater plan.
Right.
Basically, I toss out all kinds of stuff. I'll work with whoever. I haven't done any song that's like purely rock, but I've worked with a couple rock bands and remixed their things.
Yeah.
And then actually the song that seems to be doing the best right now, as far as it's the first one to show up on my Spotify, is actually my college roommate introduced me to a guy that he worked with that does country music. And we sort of did like one of those modern, like it's got like a trap beat, but he's doing his country twang thing with it. And because I mean, really, I just like making stuff.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take advantage of how many instruments I could play, different things like that, and see if I could be of service, but also maybe figure out a way to monetize all of that. Be it working with bands, working with producers, singing, commercials, podcasts, whatever. Oh yeah, video game.
Now, are you still as do you still take as much umbrage at the idea that your stuff would work really well in video games as you seemed to when we talked the first time? Because you had sort of a love-hate, but definitely more hate side relationship with that. Because, like, I mean, I as a gamer, I never think of that as a negative thing to say to somebody. Like, wow, you know, your stuff would sound so, because in the same way that you can change out the music in a movie trailer and either completely motivate people to want to go see that movie, or absolutely make people be like, I will never even watch that, even if somebody pays me to do it, you know? And like, and even just that idea of like, you know, I posted something a while ago where it took like the scene in Harry Potter when Voldemort is like finally in his body and he's like rubbing his head or whatever, but it put that with the da 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 da, no, the Spandau Ballet or whatever, and it's like music will change, but like video games, you're playing a video game and you've got great music that you are so fucking in that game, and you're so like, I don't think of that as a negative thing, but it was funny because I hadn't said it yet. And then when we talked the first time, you were like, you know, and everybody's just always saying I should fucking whatever. I was like, I didn't say that, because it is a natural thing, and it's and I think because your stuff, like I wouldn't put it in a Zelda game necessarily, but but like if I'm doing like a driving game, or I'm doing a game where like it's like I'm intense, it's reflecting how I'm feeling. So like, where are you with that? Is that something you would actually consider now? Is that what you're saying, or?
Oh, well, yeah, there's, how do I put it? There might be something. We'll put it that way.
Okay. But hypothetically, gotcha.
Me making bleepy noises. So, I mean, basically, I guess I ended up developing if I can't beat them, join them sort of thing.
Okay. What is it about that rubs you the wrong way?
Oh, I would say it's probably like a misinterpretation in my, because I have a lot of gamer friends as well, and they would never, you know, they've even said, they're like, I'm not insulting you when I say that. And I think because for some reason when it first, basically I had on one side of my, like my left ear, people being like, you know, dance music sucks. Why would you want to do that? Like, it's, you know, basic crap. And then, you know, those same people are generally naysayers about people that play video games. And so there was like a misinterpretation in my head whenever I heard somebody say, you should score a game, that they were saying like your music's crappy and cartoony.
Right. Okay.
Off, because I thought that I was taking it like as an insult, not as like I make decent atmospheres for scenarios. I guess. But I mean, better.
That would be a great album title for you, by the way.
Which one?
Decent atmospheres for scenarios. I like that. But that actually sounds like one of your but no, but that's exactly what it is. It is very atmospheric, you know, and you know, if somebody said, okay, well, hey, you know, like, you know, Ms. Pac-Man is coming out with a new thing, you should score that, I would absolutely be offended at that point. Like, that's not the kind of game. But like, I think, you know, and I said something similar to Josh, you know, and Without the Sky, Under the Yggdrasil, Rotting Sun Records, whatever, too, like, you know, this would be great for video games. And like, I think of that as like making something that I love even better than it already is. But if you're not a gamer and you also have people equating it to it being shitty or it felt that way, I could understand why you thought so. But I'm glad that you're deconstructing that misfire, because it's such a natural thing for you to be able to do, you know, and I mean, I feel like there are people in the community that would work with you on that, absolutely. So if it is something you were open to, but you know, like at Sloppy Joe Studios, I know works with like a bunch of people in the indie community to like to score games and stuff like that. But anyway, so I mean, I guess I wanted to ask you to like, do you have a song or a couple of songs of yours that you especially like, that you're especially proud of, that like that were closer to the mark of what you wanted than maybe others, like things that you particularly like? If somebody said like, hey, you know, give me your top 3 songs or whatever, could you do that? Or are you sort of, is it kind of evanescent for you, or like you do them and you're done? And
kind of a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I have things that generally I can tell I like something if, like if Jade and I are traveling and we have a playlist and I just randomly pop up, if I'm like scurrying for the phone to change it, then I'm probably not as proud of that one. There's some that I'm good with. Really though, the one that I was the most excited about, because it was very close to what I was trying to pull off, the very first would be Don't Leave.
Okay.
Sort of like it's got the dark techno vibe, but it still was melodic, but like not overly melodic that I couldn't probably still get away with calling it techno.
Okay. It's interesting you pulled that one back out, you know, because that was the one that we talked about the first time too, you know, and I know that one has a lot of emotional meaning for you too. So I'm glad that that's a song that you felt like you got it where you wanted it, because it was clearly something that was very important to you when you were making it, and to have succeeded at it, that's a very good thing. But I mean, like, so, and I guess another thing is that because you have so much music, if people wanted to get like a Electric Tardigrade primer, you know, for each of your genres, and I'm sorry to do this to you because like I know it's hard to think back, but like, Are there certain, like, is there a techno song that you would tell them to start with? Is there a synthwave song you would tell them to start with? Is there a, you know, XYZ song that you would tell them to start with for each genre for you?
I feel like I've had to do this before with somebody.
Oh.
Like,
who else were you talking to? You're not allowed to no, I'm kidding.
No, what? Oh. See, I feel like that would be a fourth song. I guess for techno, God, I have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the last one I did. The more stripped down, the A is for atheist.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's more of probably a direction, because the techno currently being built on my hard drives is more akin to that one, just varying speeds.
Okay.
Sort of stripping it down.
Okay.
As for the synthwave, I've always been privy to Eternal Love. I felt like at the point when it came out, that was probably, because my problem is I've always been afraid to stick to some kind of like code, which is why I've generally tended to like, I hang out and I got a lot of friends in the synthwave scene, but I don't promote in there. I've found some of my stuff in synthwave playlists, but I always say synthwave-ish. But Eternal Love is probably the closest I did without like slopping in a house beat to sort of a little bit.
Okay.
That's about it, right? That's all I do. Oh, probably Black Science.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, I feel like we're missing one though. Like just maybe straight dance music?
Oh. Probably Close to the Edge.
Okay. Why that one?
Because it's straight up dance music. That's the only one I can remember.
Okay. You're like, this isn't so much a choice as an availability issue.
I mean, I guess it could be argued that that's the reason I remembered it.
Okay, I like that. Let's go with that. It's your most memorable dance song. Yeah. The only one, but it's your most memorable dance song. But okay, no, it was worth a shot. We tried.
Honorable mention, I'd say, would be Aftermath, though, only because that's like my proof that I'm not going to completely tank out sober, because that's like, I think, I actually, which one was it that I mixed and mastered while I was withdrawing?
Aftermath.
Was it Aftermath? Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess I mixed and mastered Aftermath when I was still withdrawing.
Okay, nicely done.
But I was scared, because up until that point, I basically had drinks in my hand the entire time I made everything. I mean, I wasn't consistently drinking, but every time I sat down to do something, I would say.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it's terrifying to do anything for the first time without your coping mechanisms, even if they're kind of destroying you. So right. I understand that. You know, it's like, ironically, it's almost like when people are taking meds, you know, for mental health, and they're like, yeah, but am I still going to be me? You know, it's like, well, am I still going to be me without, you know, drinking or smoking or whatever? But like that, I mean, it's interesting to me, even in the last couple of months, how much more you seem to be trusting yourself in your sobriety, you know, and I, as you know, I've been watching you. You know, every time you post something and I'm sitting there with my love, you know, and now it's great to be in, like, having to type that out 100 times, you know, and I actually, just so everybody understands what I'm saying, whenever Aaron posts like, okay, you know, it's day 5, it's day 15, it's day 30, it's day 75, it's whatever, I will reply on his post when I actually get to see them, that, you know, I'll just put the word love, and I'll write the word love for every day that he's been sober. And then I'll say this. And then at the end, I'll be like, that's 75 or whatever. And I type it out every single time, because it makes me realize like how much work that was every day to get to. And I remember you in that first 30 days, you know, and just, well, that's it. And I remember, you know, I felt this sense of responsibility because, I don't by any means think that being on this show was like a catalyst for anything, but the timing was such that, I felt like, oh my God, I want Aaron to be okay, and I don't want Aaron not to be okay, and I don't want Aaron not to be okay because of anything that I had anything to do with, and I sat there kind of, in the first week especially, watching you withdraw, watching you process, watching you document that, which was again just tremendous and so important to do, because even people who aren't in it need to see that, and you doing that was reaching out in a way that you needed to do to be able to do it, because the fact that you were transparent, given how many people have just shit on you in the past for it, like that in itself was very healing without you maybe even realizing it, because you were taking that leap and you were trusting that people were not going to just shit on you in that moment. And to see you now, and it's like, holy fuck, and it's, 117 days, that's like every single one of those days was obviously different and hard and kind of amazing, and also like really, really, really hard, but you even on the days when you're like, today's a hard day, and you have those and you post about them, it's from at least the outside, it looks like a different kind of hard than it was 100 days ago.
Yeah, 100 days ago, I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, even just the sheer volume of people that were backing me up, it like, boy, it made my imposter syndrome flare there for a little bit. But I mean, just everybody being cool about it, because it was hard, but it wasn't like as hard as it's been, which is pretty funny. But I will also add, because I don't know if I referenced it, the other good thing is that I'm back to being medicated.
Right.
So that helped. I started going to therapy and taking medicine again, and we're still like in the adjustment phase. I just had my meds adjusted, and I'm going back. What day is it? Like a few days from now.
Right.
Oh, sorry, 2 weeks.
Somewhere between a few days and 2 weeks, but yeah. Well, that's part of it too. It's the right ones and the right dosage, and it's a whole fucking thing. So yeah.
And trying to get my anxiety. I still battle anxiety. It's better, but it's not like, I'm still very much like edgy constantly.
Well, but why wouldn't you be though? I mean, you've been dismantling your now thankfully ego dystonic defense mechanisms over the last 5 months, and not using and not hiding in substances, and now it's not like, okay, well, that was all that I had to do. Right. Now you got to deal with all the shit that got you there in the first place, right? So like, of course you're going to still be there, but like, I think one of the things that people really often fail to miss about mental health is that one of the most difficult things to do is the most necessary thing to do, which is to be able to sit in discomfort and not escape from it somehow, because
embracing discomfort.
Embracing discomfort. There we go. But I mean, like but that's exactly it though. That really is it. It's first being able to just sit still in that, and then it's being able to say, okay, what is this teaching me? What, and I hate to say it like that because it sounds so new age, hippy dippy bullshit, whatever, but like whenever something backs up on me, it makes me aware of something I need to look at, right? It's like, why is this moment hard for me? Or why did that piss me off? Or why am I anxious about this or whatever? So it's like, you're still starting, you shouldn't be all magically fixed already. And I mean, like that's like, you know, I mean, how much did you expect? I mean, I know how prolific you are, Aaron, but like, how much did you expect to get done in 117 days? Jesus, like, you know, give yourself a little bit of, like, you weren't supposed to have, you know, stopped drinking and, you know, using anything and smoking and meat and also solve your entire lifetime of trauma in the last 117 days. Give yourself at least another 2 weeks to do that. You know, I mean, really,
Yeah.
like, it's, but no, I mean, I'm so glad that we've done this because people, you know, people really, and I remember the discussions that we had after the first show. Like, do we air it? Do we not? Do we edit it? Do we not? What does Aaron want? And like, we were going to do whatever you wanted, as we've said. You know, and the fact that you decided for us to go ahead and air it, even as much as we kind of, you know, cut it down or whatever, like, that made me feel like, okay, he will be okay. No, it was more than fine. But then that's all Greg too anyway. But like, you know, that was the first episode where we probably watched that thing 10 times because it was like we wanted to protect you, but also preserve everything that you were saying. And like when you said, yeah, you know what, fuck it, go ahead and air it. And I was like, okay. And that meant a lot to me. I mean, if you had said no, I would have been like 100% absolutely. But for you, it meant a lot to me because, again, it was you trusting. Where's that going to land? You know, and like that, I think that's so beautiful that even after everything that you've been through, that you can trust anything, really, frankly, like anybody.
Not with people. I mean, with anybody in general. Because
no, I know. I mean that's just. But I mean, but so people, you know, people watched that, and I cannot tell you how many people wrote to me after that episode aired. You know, and they were just like, Aaron's amazing. Like I'm so glad that he put that out. You know, I'm so glad that, you know, I got to hear about this. And like, you know, I was so impressed that he shared this, or like, man, you know, I went through something really similar with my uncle or my father or my mom or my aunt or my whatever. And it's like, I didn't bring any of that to you because I figured you had enough going on at the time. But you know, it's just that's an episode that we hear about a lot. Like I hear about that a lot. And so, you know, I wanted this for you as much as, you know, you asked for it too, because this is Aaron the musician, you know, and people get to hear about the music too. And I mean, guys, if you want, you know, 80 or 90 hours of music to listen to over the next couple of days, Aaron's got you square. Like you go to the Electric Tardigrade and you're good. You're done. You don't need to do anything else for a week or 3. But I mean, you know, but it's, I love that you are even now evolving again, you know, that you're taking your techno to the kind that you prefer, where it is more stripped down, and you're still reinventing and reiterating. And I'm just always interested to hear what you're going to do next. So in that vein, before we wrap up, what should we expect from you next? You've got these multiple projects that you're doing. You're constantly making stuff. Now you're back in a band. Possibly. So like, okay. So. Oh, it's a possibly. Okay. I thought you were, that was definite, but like, so what should we keep an eye out?
It's definite, but like until practice number 1,
Fair. No, that's fair. I've been in enough bands to completely know what you're coming from on that one. So what should we be most immediately keeping an eye out for from you in the next month or so? Say by the time this airs, it will have already happened. But
I plan on, especially as the next year evolves, I'm getting to know my new my new software better that I use to make live sets.
Okay.
I'm working on something. I don't have much right now, but I'm trying to build something. I'll incorporate new stuff, and I'll try to like rebuild in a more live setting some older things.
Oh, cool.
To remix. Basically, I'm going to try to be more performative moving forward. And then just the same old, you know, Hi, everybody. I know it's been 5 minutes, but here's something new for you.
Okay.
More performative, but also I sort of want to, I guess, karmically give back in a sense that I'm still going to be very like open, especially with interviews about like mental health and stuff like that. I mean, God, the amount of people I know that are running themselves into the ground doing this as well. And how it does, like, we have fun obviously and we love doing it, but there's a lot of it that's pretty taxing on us. And that's the reason why I became more positive about a lot of the different adventures with music and stuff, and even like with the game stuff, is because, well, I mean, besides the fact that I think my problem is sometimes I take myself too seriously. And I'm trying not to do that as much, but also so many people I'm watching just struggle.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I mean, I know not everyone's as big of a loudmouth like I am. So some people, sometimes the only hope they get is from another loudmouth, like screaming out into the void, like, "Hey, everything sucks, but I think we can do this."
Yeah, no joke though. Yeah.
So that's sort of trying to be more positive and more performative. 2 peas in a pod.
PP. And you are also available should people want to hire someone for production, mixing, mastering, all that, right?
Yeah. I also I try to keep everything reasonable because I'm very transparent that I'm definitely not perfect at everything. So I keep basically the compensation rate low. But also if something's really shitty, I'll just keep doing it until it's not.
Right.
So figure that counts.
Right. So,
and also Jade, she does the visual aesthetic for folks.
That's right. You guys are power couple. You've got music and art. You're the one-stop shop. You're like a mini mart of talent. No, but I mean, look, so I mean, just to make sure everybody's on the page, go like, follow, subscribe, listen, most important to all of the things. If you're looking for some sort of production work, Aaron can take care of you. If you're looking for graphic artwork, you've got Jade Procyon, Jade Procyon art there for Jade. And if you are, if any of Aaron's story has resonated with you, Aaron's your guy. Aaron will, be transparent and talk about all the things. So speaking of all the things, Aaron, this is the big do-over, okay? Because as you know, I think, I like to end every episode with a little segment that we call In the Vox Seat. And you were not entirely present for most of this, so I'm going to ask you the same questions again and see what you say. And I don't know if you remember what you said, so it may be even a surprise to you. You don't? Okay, nope. So there you go. So the first question is, if you had to sum up Electric Tardigrade's music in 5 words or less, what would you say?
Organized chaos.
Okay. He's got it in 2, ladies and gentlemen. I like that. Organized chaos. I have a feeling that's going to be an EP title too. So, okay. Organized chaos. Your favorite thing about being a musician?
Well, I mean, the joke answer would be that I get a pass for having an ego a lot of times. And then all right. Probably be I get a pass for having an ego sometimes.
Okay. There you go. It's the ego hall pass.
I've been surrounded by it my whole life, so it's the only constant that's ever been in my life. So it feels like home if I want to make it sound like a greeting card.
No, but I think this is one of those times where the cheesy sentiment is actually apropos, because it really that is, I think everyone that's listening and watching to this who's a musician or even an artist of any kind understands that feeling of home in it. So yeah, it might sound cheesy, but it's legit. So okay, but flip side, least favorite thing about being a musician.
Least favorite. God, I mean, there's quite a bit.
Okay, well,
I guess it would be more. If I didn't have to summarize it, I mean, too much.
No, you don't. You don't have to summarize it. You can just say it.
I would probably say it would be the useless criticism from people that don't understand it. Or I guess if I were to wrap it up neatly, I would say probably gatekeepers.
Okay. Now, is that genre gatekeepers? Is it musical gatekeepers? Is it all kinds? Okay.
The one that keeps a gate.
Okay. All right. But you're okay with key masters.
I am the key master.
I am the gatekeeper.
Okay. Now, if you had to choose just one album to listen to for the rest of your life, what album would it be and why?
Soundgarden, Down on the Upside. I think I discovered the month it came out, thanks to when MTV still played music. And I want to say that was 95 or 96.
I think so.
But it's now 2023, and that is one of the few albums that I don't have to skip a song.
Okay.
Never gotten old.
No, and nearly 30 years in, that is quite a feat. So, okay. Yeah. All right. That has been a choice before. And for good reason. Yeah. Okay.
Drunk Aaron agree.
It's interesting that because we didn't really talk a lot about that in terms of what you listen to. So let me just ask you quickly, because it's not techno, it's not dance, it's not whatever. Is that mostly what genres are you usually listening to when you're not making your own stuff?
Well, I mean, for a while it's been different forms of dance, but I would say that's also because I had some electronic acts that I liked, even when I was a kid. It was like Moby and
what
is it? Aphex Twin. Okay. And The Prodigy, stuff like that. And of course, it wasn't considered dance, but 9 Inch Nails was the synth master.
Yeah.
But my sort of what I was doing before was a lot of hard rock metal, but a lot of it was usually the stuff that was bass guitar oriented.
Okay.
But a little bit later after that, it was a lot of prog, or even math rock. Some people call it Tool.
Yeah,
Dream Theater, stuff like that. But when I started exploring EDM, I really didn't dive too far, because I was doing synthwave, which is kind of just a mimicry of all the synthy parts of new wave. But the guy that I was working with started introducing me to stuff like Deadmau5, Avicii, which I listened to some Avicii before. And it's just it's this world of music that I didn't really give a full chance before. And my favorite part of it is actually that fact that it makes me feel something, yet I can turn my brain off somehow at the same time.
I gotcha. No, that's it. It's that kind of elemental thing too, where you're connecting, but you're not thinking about connecting, which I think for especially people like us with the brain always just is a good thing. That's a sweet spot to be in. But okay, so all of that taken, we're still going with Soundgarden. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, Aaron, this is the last question, which since we spoke has become such a lightning rod, no pun intended, issue around here. So I'm gonna have to ask this one of you again. Okay. Now we'll have to figure out whether to change the count or add to it, because I know Freaky Things is gonna be, he's our tally accountant here, who's gonna depending on what your answer is, he may want us to count it twice or only once or even not at all. But so your toilet paper roll, when you put the toilet paper on the holder, Does the toilet paper come from over the top or under the bottom, and why?
He doesn't put it on there.
God damn it.
Somehow we knew that, Jade. I think that seems like a bridge too far for Aaron, but okay. Okay, so you are an other.
It goes under, and honestly, because I usually don't bother with it, I don't have a preference either way. So if you have a neutral category or on the toilet or resting on the old roll, I guess I would maybe put it towards the right.
Okay. All right. So Jade, we know, would be an under, but I'm sorry, Dom. We cannot count that because we're not technically interviewing Jade. So you are now an other. Okay. I think that keeps you where you were. If I recall correctly, you were.
Yeah, I haven't developed that habit yet.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Another other. There we go. You're keeping everybody guessing, even with your toilet paper, Aaron. That's it. You just, you're easy breezy, come as it may. But listen, this was so nice. I really did enjoy talking to you the first time. I really did. But this is a different thing, and I'm so glad that you did it the first time. I'm so glad that you decided to come back. I'm so thrilled that not only did you blow past the 90 days, but by the time this airs, you'll probably have another month under your belt on top of it. And I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm just so proud of you. Like I don't miss for a second how difficult I can imagine this has been, and I also don't delude myself that I have any idea how difficult that it's been, and it is still. But you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're sharing it with everybody, and you're still making fucking awesome music in the middle of all that, which, like, I'm also like very impressive because, it's not like I went, oh, okay, now Aaron's making good music. Like, you still managed to make good music before, but it's great that you're doing it with this clarity now, and that you can sit there and say, like, I can do that. Like, I can make my music without needing anything else to make it. So
it's much better.
You think it's much better?
I mean, I still have some pretty shitty mental days, but that's what I wanted to.
I thought you meant your music. I was gonna say what? But okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have to log off, but I just mean like, but really, like, when I think of that, like, it takes a village phrase. Like, I think the reason it was so hard, like monumentally harder in the past, was if I felt like it was an uphill battle that I was like fighting by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like having this, like, I guess it's like a global village, like basically I could be having an existential crisis at 3 a.m. and, hey, it's afternoon in London. So
yeah.
We'll be up and telling me to keep going, and has,
Mm-hmm.
So many people that like I need to reach out to and thank, and even, see if they want to do something.
Yes, please.
As a thanks. I have a couple things brewing in the background. They haven't said anything yet, so I guess I'll keep my trap zipped, but I'll announce if I'm allowed.
Fair enough.
I'm thankful. It's been so many supportive people, and like a good therapist and a good psychiatrist and medicine that actually is doing something.
And a great woman and a great cat.
Yeah, well, Herschel. But yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice, and I like interacting with everybody and sharing my dumb ideas as I bring them out to fruition. Which is another thing I forgot. I think I derailed myself. And that's the other thing too. I think I see people being hard on themselves all the time when it comes to creation. And I wish I can give them a little brain cell of mine. Not that they would necessarily want it. But I think the reason I make so much stuff is because I don't necessarily go in thinking I'm writing a song. It's more like some kind of like bipolar mad scientist. And if it's like tolerable at the end, I publish it.
Okay.
Not too worried about you know, how many check marks I tick. I just do it. It's kind of like second nature, but that was sort of you know, I digress moment.
No, but that's actually a great point to land on. Actually, is you know, if you can sit there at the end of all of everything, or not, it's constantly in medias res for you. I understand, but like if you can be at this point and say, you know what, don't judge yourself too much that it will keep you from being creative. Don't be so concerned with other people's perceptions that it keeps you from being creative. Don't don't make it life or death like that,
Right.
and have it keep you from being creative. I think that that's something that everybody needs to hear, because
and the juxtapositioning between, like, I guess the two things that I said is more, that's basically how I've survived all this, just not taking it too seriously, trying to have fun with it, but also so many people are so hard on themselves but have been so kind to me. Like, hey, why don't you extend some of that to yourself in your tunes there, pal?
Look at the salt. No, but look, and hey, Aaron, you keep doing that too, buddy.
Will do.
When the little shit goblin in the brain starts up, you can say the very same thing. So listen, we're, when you hit 1,000 days, we'll do this again. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there will be literally 14 years of music that I need to listen to, even though it's not going to be more than like a couple years or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I will only be able to listen to Electric Tardigrade for the rest of my life. I will not have time for anything else. But thank you so much for coming back. Thank you, Jade, for being you, and thank you, Herschel, for making an appearance. And I think that's it, guys. This was Electric Tardigrade 2, Electric Boogaloo. Look at the cuteness of the two of them. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching and listening. That's another Vox and Guest in the Books. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.